So I'd like to start the day with sharing a few experience of a particular 100 days of travel that I undertook in 2018. Uh, so that yatra was just after working in the formal education space for 2 years in Maharashtra. I was working with Thane Municipal Corporation schools, and during the process, I had like a little my own differences with how things worked in a very formal setup, and a deeper inquiry came up on what learning means to oneself, on what education means to oneself, what is the purpose of education, and so on. So and that was how the 100 days of travel happened, wherein I traveled across India for about 4 months, met with individuals and organizations who work in the domain of education and learning, uh, and stayed with them for like a few days, a couple of weeks, and trying to understand the different realities and philosophies they operated in. So one of my experiences at Povitham school in Dharmapuri in Tamil Nadu is what I would like to share next. So Povitham is an alternative school uh, em- eh, that employs different ways of learning. So they have created their own curriculum, which is based on the land, water, air in and around the area. Uh, and most of the curriculum is taught through farming. Like more than 70% of the curriculum is taught through farming. And the place in which Povitham school is established, Dharmapuri, is a is a water scarce area. And the question I had as I first went to this place was like, how can a drought-prone area can set up a farm school? Upon reaching Povitham, I saw some of the ways in which they were addressing this. For example, they had set up mulch beds to grow their vegetables. They employed a 3 bucket system to wash the utensils so that water is conserved. Uh, they largely use dry toilets so that again there is no wastage of water. So, but more than any of this, what moved me the most was uh, when the children or when any of them like over there like took bath, like so in the bathroom they would uh, stand inside this large tub, in which they remove their clothes and take bath, so that like in the same water they wash their clothes. And they don't use any harmful detergents or anything. So the soap that they use, or the washing powders that they use, is made by the children of the school by themselves, which doesn't harm the environment. So the same water is then led to the farm. So that was something like totally new to me. So as someone who have been schooled, like I like in very intellectual terms, I know that okay, 75% of the earth is water, but like only 2% of it is drinkable, and so on, and that which meant that one has to judiciously consume water, one has to stop wastage of water, and so on. But someone who was born and brought up in Kerala, I've never really faced a shortage of water. So that was never really in my practice, uh, to to consciously conserve water and so on. But as I went through these processes, as I went through these experiences, uh, like something changed in me, like something really shifted within me. Now I was more aware of uh, the need to conserve water, because I had gone through those practices. So until then, like the very the understanding was at a very intellectual level, but now with the experiences that actually transformed my actions and how I looked at consuming resources, which is like not just water. So that is an experience to share. So I guess like learning through experience, it might take time and maybe a little extra effort, but when it happens in the right way, it stays forever. So one another great learning that I had while traveling was about slowing down, the need to slow down. So in the first 1 month of my travel, I would stay at a particular place for say about 2 to 3 days, and I would meet with at least 8 or 10 people during the span of 2 to 3 days. Different resource persons, people working in the domain of say education, sustainability, and so on. All these conversations were great, but what happened after a point was, um, like forget even processing. I couldn't even take in all the information that was flowing in, because there was so much conversations that were happening, so much like intellectual dialogues that were happening, that I needed time to process any of this. So that was when I first took a break in the travel, and designed the rest of the course of the journey such that I would stay at a place for at least a week, maybe like 7 to 10 days, uh, and and try and learn a new skill along with it. So as I was in Udaipur, I learned to make cloth bags. I learned to use a sewing machine. Um and later, when I was in Old Faridabad, I learned to make wallets uh, out of canvas and clothes. So as I sat on the machine for say like 4 hours a day, that helped me process all the different experiences that I had so far. That helped me analyze the different experience that I had until then. So like slowing down came to be like a real great learning about not just in terms of travel, but in terms of say approaching life. So um, yes, so now I would like to hear from you. I guess people at Mango Education. I went through the social media handles of Mango Education, and I came across some really interesting experiments and engagements. So I guess people here can share their thoughts on what project-based learning is. I guess. Uh, w- what is project-based learning? Has Can anybody share?
HTML. Sir, I was learning about
Project based.
sir coding.
Yes. Okay. So one thing that you learned is coding, but thank you for sharing that, Pavitra. Yes. Obuli, is Mango Education involved in like project-based learning? I it so felt appeared to me, so that's why I just asked here. Sorry, your voice is not audible, Obuli. It's breaking. Okay, it seems Obuli has dropped off. That's okay. So I can share. Yeah, so project-based learning, it involves a very interdisciplinary approach, wherein different subjects come together, different domains come together in a particular project. So there is an active exploration of say real world challenges and problems that happens within a period of time, uh, and so like say for example in school we learn about say history and science, all of it separate, history and geography and science separately, but like all these different subjects come together in when it comes to project based learning. Basically there is an interdisciplinary approach towards this. So this is an approach that we take up when we design the different learning journeys as well. So before I get into that, another question to the group: what comes to your mind when you hear the word river? When you hear river, what comes to your mind? River or rivers or
The water which flow with huge amount of uh, occupying the land is called as a river, and it
yes.
will.
What do you think of when you think of river? Like that's what you have learned. But whenever you think of river, what do
What
you
comes to
think
your
about?
mind? Like
River rafting.
river rafting. Haha. Yes.
Like
Anybody else?
swimming.
Swimming.
Swimming. Yes.
Tanu, Aditya Ramana. Anybody else?
Okay, I mean, never say die spirit.
Never say die spirit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait. Thank you. Who else wants to go? Then we
Flowing
have
water.
Sorry, what water?
Flowing water.
Water. Yes. Yes.
Fishes.
Fishes. Yes. Very much. Yes. So largely these are the different thoughts that come to mind, like when we hear the word river, right? Like flowing water, like huge amount of water, fish stock, river rafting, so that recreation purposes and so on, and like at a very deeper level about like the about what Thanu mentioned about never say. Sorry, I don't remember the exact words, but like it's more around like never say die sorts, right? So
never. Yeah.
yeah, yes. So Nila Yatra was a river journey that that we had conducted last year. So this was a group learning journey exploring the river Nila. So Nila is this river that originates in Anamalai in Tamil Nadu and flows through three different districts of Kerala, namely Palakkad, Malappuram, and Thrissur, and then enters the Arabian Sea. So Nila is the name of the river, and at Nila Yatra, we were largely looking at the different history, folk, ecology, aspects of ecology, arts and crafts, and livelihoods associated with the river. Uh, because yes, so largely when one first hears about river, like amount of water and fish stock would and how river can be used as a source of energy and so on, that is what comes to our mind. But a river is much more than that. The river has supported life, life and livelihoods. There are a lot of arts and crafts and culture that revolves around a river or any river for that matter. So Nila Yatra was such a journey to look at all these different varied aspects along the river Nila. So to share an example, so one of the communities whom we met during the yatra was the Kumbharan community. So Kumbharans, they are into pottery. So the clay that they use is sourced 4 meters away from the bank of the river. There's another community which is into weaving grass mats. And to our best understanding, these are the very last people very last people in Kerala who hand weaves grass mats. And this particular grass again grows along the bank of the river. And there's so much history to why they came to be doing what they're doing, and how they came to, and also how they came to be doing what they're doing. Uh, so to share like one instance, the Kumbharan community, they are originally from a place in Andhra Pradesh, and then the language that they speak within their family is a mix of Telugu, Kannada, Tamil, Malayalam, and even Hindi, and also some Konkani and as well. So like we were quite curious to know like what their story was like what is like why such a peculiar mix of words that is there in their language. So they were originally from Andhra Pradesh, and 8 to 9 generations ago they experienced a drought, uh, where there was no enough, not only that there wasn't enough water to get good clay, even to live. so they started moving. So as a community, they traveled. They migrated from there. They moved through different parts of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and finally they settled 8 9 generations ago. They settled along the bank of the river Nila. And why they settled here? Because some like there were water was available in abundance. There was forest nearby, so they could collect firewoods from there, so that for the cooking and other purposes. And most importantly, good clay was available along the bank of the river. So these are like some stories that we engage with, or we try to understand during the learning journeys that we conduct. So another community that we met during Nila Yatra itself was, so they were into handloom. So this community, again, they were originally from Tamil Nadu, but currently living in this part of Thrissur. And they too had come to like migrated from their native place about 7 generations ago, because a pandemic had happened there. So they came and settled here again because there was water was available in abundance, and the temperature and the climate conditions supported weaving. Yes. And yes, so during these learning journeys, so the learning journeys are mostly group learning journeys, and we would have people from all different age groups participating. So we have had homeschooling parents and coming with their children. We have had job workouts. We have had like college professors, so researchers, and so on. So like a really great mix of people come together in the learning journeys. So these are usually like 7 to 10 days journeys, and apart from the different themes that we explored in the learning journeys, so this different mix that comes together, that allows for peer learning from each other, and also learning together fosters a lot of togetherness. And we have seen like even after the yatras, even after the learning journeys, people supporting each other, contributing to each other's learnings, and so on. Yes. And I can take maybe some questions if you have any at this point.
Interesting. I have a few questions, Asik. So it is interesting to know how travel has shaped you to what you are today. From what I understand, that has been your primary driving force in your life so far, travel.
Yes.
And with this entire thing of Travelers University, I would like to understand what is it? What was your vision, or what made you be a part of something like Travelers University, and what do you want to achieve with it? What is your vision? Yeah,
Yes.
I would like to know.
Yes, definitely. So I can like quickly share about like how Travelers University came into being. Uh, so yeah, so Travelers University, the idea is out of a friend, Rahul Karanpuria. He's from Rajasthan. So during 2015-16 period, he had a gap year project that he designed for himself called 52 Parinde. So Parinde means free bird in Hindi, and there are 52 weeks in a year, right? So he traveled across India for a year and met with 52 individuals who were basically either walkouts on the mainstream, or people who had designed their own lives and careers. And these are like alternative careers that takes care of the planet and so on. So 1 week each, he spent with every individual and document their story in written and video formats. So his reflection at the end of the year was that like all of his life lessons came from the travel, and he wanted to set up a platform where more people could travel and learn and explore their interests by traveling. So it was during that phase that the both of us met, and I was in the process of meeting with certain individuals and organizations working in the domain of learning. So that was supposed to be a journey that I would undertake for my own learning. and we found like a common ground, and that's how we came to start Travelers University. So the larger vision, so it is maybe rather than the vision of Travelers University, there's a vision that we hold with regards to, say, transformation of education. So it is about making choice-based learning possible, and democratization of learning spaces. So learning happening from a space of interest rather than compulsion. Learning that happens for the well-being of the self and the world, rather than accumulation of knowledge or resources or wealth. So that is a larger vision that we hold for learning. And since travel is one of the ways through which, like, we have learned a lot in our life, so this is what we offer to the rest of the world as well. Yeah.
Am I audible, Ashik?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so audience, please, listeners, you can ask your question. So if you have your question, you can please unmute yourself and ask. But I have a couple of more questions to you.
Sure. Yes.
So is travel always a pleasant experience? I mean, there are times that, you know, travel can be tedious or unpleasant. It can put you in situations that can make you feel uncomfortable. So is it right to say that, you know, travel is always nice and, you know, it's beautiful experience, or should we be prepared like for both? And how do you deal with such unpleasant travel experiences?
Yes, that's a very broad topic to talk about. But yes, like travel is never rosy and pleasant all the time. There have been a lot of discomforts as well. But I would like to share about I would like to share about an experience. So uh, I, as an individual, I usually travel in the sleeper class because there is a greater scope for a lot of conversations and interesting stories to hear, to know. And yes, so in a similar journey, so this was like a really long journey for more than 24 hours. And so in the same compartment that I was in, there was a family of three. There was a father, mother, and a child. Um, the child would have been about, say, 8 or 9 years old. Um, and throughout the whole journey, what I saw was that the parents, they were not having food. They would buy the food for their child, but they wouldn't have food. And yeah, and a lot of questions came up in my mind. A lot of, like, I imagined like what their life would be, or what maybe they were moving to a city from their native place, looking for better livelihood, better job, better living, and so on. And they have to be, you know, very frugal about it at this moment. And so yeah, so for this, so like hunger did not matter to them, but like they bought food only for their child. And yeah, so that was a real disturbing experience. And from then, like for a period of time, I stopped taking food while traveling, because I want to experience hunger, and like I wanted to put myself in their place, and look at the situation. uh, yes, so travel has, I mean, like there have been uncomfortable experiences as well, like in such a light. Yeah, yeah. And which has opened for a lot of questioning, reflections, and so on. Yeah.
Thank you, Asik. I think the takeaway is like, you know, it is inevitable that some of the experiences will be unpleasant, but that will also become a part of your learning journey that as you move on. Thank you, Ashik, for sharing that experience. There is one more question, like how many tours have you completed? Like I think he's asking about how many journeys or how many travel experiences you have so far.
Like, is it are you asking about the learning the programs which Travelers University have conducted, or like as an individual?
I think your personal travel, like where have you traveled? Probably you can tell them about some of the places you've traveled or the states or cities. I think that's what they want to know.
So to, so in the last 2 years there hasn't been one home. Like I have never stayed for more than say 2 to 3 weeks in a particular place in the last 2 years.
That's amazing.
And now with COVID, like following COVID, like I'm staying with my parents in Thrissur, Kerala right now. That's been almost 6 months. But or else like I have traveled across India. Yes. And like all of my travel has been for an educational purpose, like either for my own learning or to design journeys for other people. Yeah.
One other thing that comes to my mind is when you say that you've not like been in a home like for a week in one particular place in the last 2 years, like does it sound like I mean it sounds to me like it's an expensive affair to keep traveling to new places, or like you want to stay in some place, you want to have food. So how do you manage that? Do you work out a way to keep your expenses low and also at the same time travel and learn?
Okay. So before I answer that, let me ask a question here. So in 2018, I traveled for about 120 days and across 9 different states of India. And like, how much do you think it would have cost me?
Okay. Any takers? Any guesses?
Any guess, like any random guess?
9 states and 20 days.
9 states and 120 days.
120 days. Wow. 9 states and 120 days. Okay. I'm just calculating. Having others, you can take a guess. How much would have been the expenses? 1,000 rupees a day, maybe, or I mean, I'm just coming up with some numbers. 750 to 1,000 rupees a day.
Give a total. Give a total, maybe.
Okay, so that would come about 120 into 1,000, 1 lakh. That is going beyond, way beyond 1 lakh. 1 lakh 50,000 maybe.
Okay. Any other guesses?
Any other guesses? Mine is 1.5 to 2 lakhs, maybe 2 lakhs. Yeah. I think people are still figuring out. Sridhanvi, Tanu, Yasa, Deepika, would you like to take a guess? How much would have been the expense?
Tanu says around 80K. Yeah.
80K. Yes, I think you can say, and also like if it is going to be whatever number it is, please tell us how you were able to, like, yeah.
Oh yes, sure, yes. Someone else says, Sridhanvi says 1 to 2 lakhs. 1,80,000 is what Vamshi says. Yes. So the cost that I incurred was around 25,000 rupees.
25,000? Oh wow. Okay.
But this is not the actual cost that has gone into the travel. I will have to say this is a cost that which I as an individual incurred. I'll share how. So out of the 25,000, say around 65% of it went to the ticket booking alone. I always travel by public transport. Yes, so like state transport buses and sleeper class trains, and that's and other sharing sharing travel services. And yeah, so I was not I had literally no cost for my accommodation because I was being hosted by a lot of people. I was being hosted by the organizations that I was visiting. I was being hosted by the individuals at the individuals' homes whom I was meeting with. And also to say along with is that like 90% of these people whom I visited in those 120 days, I was meeting them for the first time, or I was knowing about them for the first time in my life. And so another greatest learning is like from the travel, from again, is regarding the power of gift. Because like none of them really knew me, but But as I shared about my travel and the intention behind the travel, like there was a trust that came into being, and so due to which they house me at their own homes and organizations. Yeah, so there was a greater power of gift that was involved, um, and trust again. Like I also learned to trust more, like trust people and trust in the abundance that is there around as the travel happened. So maybe like, so I would say 25,000 is a cost that I incurred, but then like the actual cost would be much more. Yeah, because like I had to spend on accommodation, uh, or most of times even food, because the people whom I was meeting, since I was hosted their place, like we would have food together, and we would cook together, or so on. So yeah.
That is interesting, Ashit. But when you talk about trust part in travel, but when you're meeting someone for the first time, like you're essentially a stranger, so maybe they may know that you are visiting them, or maybe you're visiting them and without even informing them well in advance. But how is this trust? Is this a universal feeling wherever you travel, or are there places like, for example, in cities, the trust element is people even living next door, they don't trust each other. But when you meet strangers for the first time and traveling across a different state, and how is this trust spanning out? Is it true universally wherever you travel, or like can you just tell us on that aspect, trust?
Yes. So this is something what I've experienced the last like more than 2.5 years of being with Travelers University, and traveling in these manners which I shared. So I think, so I believe, like if the intention is right, and like if one is able to convey the intention to the other person, automatically there comes in trust. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I would say about it.
Sounds very spontaneous. It is like you're telling us that how can there not be any trust? How can there be not trust? So it's something like that. It's interesting. So maybe since we have not traveled like you, it is difficult for our heads to wrap around this idea
Yes.
that
So I'll
people.
quickly share about another experience. So a different, a totally different kind of yatra that we organize, uh, which
Please.
is which is called, which is the Sopadgami cycle yatra. So this is a week-long journey on cycles, like the for like with a group of say about like 15 people, on cycles, without mobile phone, without money, without any gadgets. So we just carry some the basic essentials, maybe like two extra pairs of clothes other than the one what we're wearing, and like two sheets, like one sheet to lie down and one sheet to cover ourselves, and yeah, and some basic essentials, and that's it. Uh, Through rural, so this is mostly we have like done the yatra largely through the rural locations only, but the idea is to experience the power of gift again, the abundance that is there around, the love that one can receive from people and offer to people, uh, to 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 feel real connection without mobile phones or networks, to feel real power without money, and so on. So yeah, so that has been a really transformative journey for me. Uh, yeah, and I hope I invite like more people to take up journeys, or like join us when we host the next cycle yatra. Yeah.
Sure, Ashik, please keep us posted. I think the COVID has also put. It's like we appreciate a shadow, or being under the tree shade when there is too sunny, and on other days we don't feel the value of it. I think the COVID times has made us feel like like we want to travel. It's been like I not in terms of like learning experiences alone, but the very fact that we've been stuck at home, like without not being able to do much, has I think would have created a lot of ideas within the minds of people to travel, to get back to travel in some sense, even to the closest city or somewhere. Um, but I have one more question on these lines. um, you had substantial like experiences in terms of traveling, but is there something that you wanted to do but you've not been able to do so far? Like this is something that I always wanted to do in terms of travel, but I'm not there yet. It is still in my bucket list. I would like to do something like that for you.
Uh, so I've always wanted to do multiple things at multiple points of time, and slowly, gradually, and pursuing all of that. So it is not that like I would want to do everything at the same time. Uh, so yeah, so for example, the different skills that I learned, like um stitching is something that I've been wanting to learn since say like 7 or 8 years, because I would design clothes for myself and my cousins. So and it was like 2 years ago that I learned it, and last year I learned to make chocolates. This year, for the first time, I've tried out something on publishing, e-publishing. So publishing is a greater interest that I hold at the moment. So yes, look, I'm looking forward to create more books and booklets in future. So yes.
So you also said that you're like, I mean, you're an advocate of conversations. So when you say conversations, like, do you want to involve yourself in a conversation like you're having the one right now, or do you facilitate people or actively encourage people to get into conversations? Like how does it do? Because some people are like they want to converse with people, but they're not actively engaging others also to converse, like an active learning community. But how are you doing that?
So as an individual, I'm more of a listener than someone who talks.
Oh, that
So
yes, yes.
yes. So but yeah. So this is what I truly believe in, that if conversations can happen with open hearts, that can bring a lot of change. How we experience not just the world, how we experience each other. Yeah, so that is something that I believe in, and I love talking to people. I love listening to people even more. uh, so yes, and I've always and such spaces like where there is a lot of scope for meeting new people and interacting with them, knowing their stories, sharing my stories. So that is something that excites me.
Apparently listening is I mean easier said than done. So one of the questions from Tanu is like, explain your profile that says you're an active listener. How to be one? Like she wants to know how can you be an active listener. So and what is one clear difference between active and a passive listener? So I think that is to you.
Okay.
Yes.
Uh, so this is again like largely from my own experience of not being heard. So like there have been instances when like I've wanted to convey certain things, and I have felt that I was not really being heard. uh, so so it is so so it is from there, I think I started listening to people more, and like I started creating space for people to share, and yeah, I would listen to them. So like so so there have been like really like intimate one-on-one conversations that have happened where mm, so like yeah, so where I don't know how to share it in words, because it is more of an
Absolutely.
emotion and experience to me. uh,
Yeah, I think for you, I think it's based on your experiences. I think your experiences have shaped you to be an active listener. Like
yeah,
I
I
think
still haven't like
people.
formulated that in words, but then I guess this question will motivate me to put down those thoughts in words, put down those experiences in words. Yeah. Thank you for
Okay.
that.
So others, if you have, please let us know if you have any questions. Of course, I can keep asking questions to ask it a lot because I love traveling, and I've learned travel have shaped me as a human as well. So if you guys have, please do ask him, and you can unmute yourself and ask your questions. You don't have to type in. you can ask your questions. Vamsi, Tanu, Sri Danvi, and you have Ashwin. Yes, Mokshika, Deepika, quite a few of you there. So yes, please do.
Actually, you say that travel is something that we can learn from. I need to know that what can we learn actually?
Okay. In anything that you wish to learn, that would be the answer. So it could be like a new skill. It could be something about in any different domain that you're interested in, say organic farming, alternative education, sustainability, anything for that matter. Any subject for that matter, I would say.
How welcoming are people to teach you? Like, of course, hosting you for accommodation and having a nice conversation with you and hosting you is a different thing. But visiting a place where you can learn from people. How open are people to teach strangers or people they meet for the first time?
Yes. So I think the first thing is to ask. Um so so quite often times, like what I had experienced with myself much earlier was like I had this real difficulty to ask for help or ask for support. um, yes, but then I would always be ready to offer something to someone, but I wouldn't be ready to ask for help or support when required. And this is another great learning that I've had in the last, say, 2.5 years, as I said, of traveling. um, One is automatically put in at times one is automatically put in uncomfortable situations where one needs to ask, so that inhibition as a usual gradually vanishes. So when it comes to asking when it comes to learning new skills and asking them for help again, like more than 90-95% of times people have been really open to that idea. So from my experience again, like people really love to help, people really love to offer, but it is it is just about like finding the right person and asking them is a key, I guess.
I think this also explains the part that you said in the beginning about travel, the trust. I think people trust when they help. So they don't have any calculations that are going on in their mind. What if I help him and he cheats on me? Like something like that. I think it's a pure trust that,
Yeah.
that exists between two humans that enable them to teach each other or help one another. I think I would really love to have those experiences, but most of us, what we suffer from or what is holding us back in experiencing such things is the luxury of time. So we are held back by our work, we are held back by our schools or academics or whatever it is. Now, how do you suggest something for such people who are held back, like in terms of time? Can you just suggest us what do we do about it?
Okay, so before I get into that, I would like to ask a question. So when it comes to when you choose to travel, what would be like your different preferences? Say example, like would it be a faraway place, a different district or a state, or within the city, or for how much time period that you would wish to travel, and so on. Like what would be some of the preferences when you decide when to travel for any purpose? It could be for leisure, it could be for learning, it could be for anything. But then, like, what would be some of the preferences?
If you guys could unmute yourself and answer, please. Yeah. I'm sure everybody loves to travel. Everybody wants to travel. So I'm sure all of you have answers.
Preferences in terms of number of days, the distance, like from where you are to where you wish to travel to, yeah, and so on.
Anna, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So where would you like to travel, and if you had a chance to travel, and for how long, and what kind of place do you want to travel to? That was the question.
as in when you decide to travel, when you choose to travel, how many days like usually for how many days do you plan? Would it be for like say whether you would have say a minimum of 3 days or like at least a week you should travel, or I should be traveling to a totally new place or a different district or a different state. So what are some of these preferences when you decide to travel?
Actually, there's a island near Australia. I like to travel to that place like for 1 month.
Okay.
Actually, now that no one lives in the Thailand and there's just a house, you can go live there for free. And the work we should do is weather monitoring.
Okay.
So I would like to travel to that place.
Yes. So you'd like to travel to a different country to explore a particular interest of yours, which is weather monitoring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another, thank you, Ashwin. There's another response at the chat box, Ashik. I wish to travel to a coastal place as I have never experienced coastal setups. I would like to shell 15 days max.
Yes. Sure. Yes. Like very valid thing. Yeah.
Anna, I would like to travel around the world, and I love to travel to mountains and seasides, and most probably mountains for about around 3 months or so, the whole world.
Yes. Yes. So for about 3 months to the mountains, mountain side, right? Because yeah.
Yeah, I even love to go and study in the mountains because of that climate and stuff.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I love nature. I want to stay 30 days from the city, far the city in the nature.
Yes. You want to move from the city and like spend time in nature for at least 30 days.
Yes.
Yes.
I love so much nature. I love.
Yes, like and all these are like really valid things, and like what drives us to do like travel and so on. Um, but like I I'd like to share a totally like maybe a little contradicting thought over here about one can even travel within one's own city or town or village uh, to experience like totally different and different things, or to learn something that you had never experienced before or never knew about before. So like I'll also share like where this is coming from. So in the last 3 years or so, like I've been hosting my friends at my home in Thrissur, and friends mostly from outside Kerala. And I would take them around Thrissur. And that was when, and I would share the stories of these the different places and so on. And that was when I first realized that I didn't know much about my own city, the place that I was born and brought up and lived until until my graduation. So ever since it has been so the reflection was that whatever his history that I learned in school was largely North Indian history and largely Indian history and world history. And in the Indian history alone, it was largely North Indian history, nothing much to do about the southern part of the country or my own state or the district I was born into. So ever since, it has been a self-educative process for me to learn more about the place I was born into. So so it, it so so it included learning about the different structures, monuments, places, rituals, culture, and so on. So I believe there is like immense things to. I mean, like there are so many things that one can learn from, like within say even 30 to 40 kilometers around. Yeah. So for people who have this who face the difficulty in finding enough time to face the difficulty in allocating 30 days or even 1 week. So maybe in the weekends one can try to go to a different part of the city that you have never gone to, and try to learn something from there. And along with that, something else that I would like to share is, so we might most often times we might not be knowing the history of certain places. So one thing one way by which one can address this is to talk to, say, grandparents and grandparents, not necessarily one's own grandparents, but like say people post they said like 70 years or 80 years of age, because they would have seen how like how the locality is transformed, how different services came into being, how things shaped up. So there is immense potential to learn from them and one's own city. Yeah.
Interesting, Ashik. There's another question.
Yes.
Which place you loved in the travel and why, Anna? If anyone asks which place is best to learn different culture, then your suggestion.
So all the places I've traveled so far, yes, I have a special love for Tamil Nadu because I've received a lot of love from the people in Tamil Nadu, and but otherwise like everywhere. Kolkata was another place which I absolutely loved traveling to because just to share an instance, um, as I would meet new people in when I was in Kolkata, the first instinct of people there was to speak to me in Bengali because somehow they had assumed that I was a Bengali. So that was interesting, being a Malayali, and so that was an interesting experience. But if you ask about like which place is best to learn different cultures, I would say start with your own place, your own locality, the place. Maybe it could be the place you were born in, or the place you have lived the most of your life, or the place you are currently living. So that would be the best place to start, I would say.
Interesting, Ashik. This point that you made about understanding. Yes, yes. Please talk. Who was that? I'm sorry. Someone. Mokshita. Yes.
Anna.
Hi.
She says okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's another question, Ashik. Has there ever been an unlearning experience which molded your previous set of experiences and travel? That's an interesting question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like a lot. So I can share like one experience that is like coming to my mind at the moment, in the very moment. So this was like long back when I was in my college. I was traveling through Bangalore, and it was I was traveling in the bus. It was quite a long journey, considering the distance I was traveling and also the Bangalore traffic. So it was about a 3 hours long journey, and so at a point, like a boy got into the bus, and like he sat next to me, the seat next to me. So he was in a he would have been about say 10 or 11 years old. He was dressed in very shabby clothes, uh, and like as he sat next to me, he asked me something. He either asked me or told me something in Kannada which I didn't understand at that time. So at that very moment, the quick response was to ask him in English, what did you say? Sorry, I didn't understand what you said. Can you share in English? Because so this was the quick response that I had at that moment, and then he said that, um, can you please wake me up when the bus reached the Majestic bus station? And like I didn't expect that. I didn't expect uh, like a shabbily dressed boy talking in English. And so at that moment, what came to my mind was, so like I had assumed that like he's doing some daily wage work or something, and now he's getting back to his place. And I yeah, but then like the point is, at that moment, I felt I felt a different kind of respect to him because he spoke in English, and he communicated well in English. But then later, years later, it like the actual reflection for me like happened years later, when I realized that I shouldn't be respecting anyone like in a different manner or in a special manner if they speak English or anything like respect is something that you feel one should feel for any other human being around. So yeah, so in that sense, so that is an unlearning experience to share about. Yeah.
Thank you, Ashik. I think that was wonderful. I think I'm sure the more people choose to travel, I think they will become a different version of themselves. Not just a different version of themselves, but a better version of themselves each time they travel. And I think I'm glad of spending your valuable time with us for so long. And thank you once again. And we'll catch up soon again. And next time when we catch up, I really wish to catch up in a travel with you to have some interesting experiences and learning. And I'm sure some of the listeners today were inspired to travel and learn. That should have been the takeaway, and I'm sure that has been the takeaway. And if we have any more things to ask him, just we have a couple of more minutes where you can ask him. Else, we can thank Ashik for his time. Would you like to say any final word before the session ends, Ashik? Yes.
Yeah, I can take in like a couple of more questions if there is.
Yes, please do ask him questions. Yes, so he is available for some more time. So I saw a lot of interesting questions that you guys asked, so please don't have to stop. You can continue to ask questions that you have. We have some more time with him. Yes. While you're just waiting, yes, I guess. They don't.
Anna,
Yes, Ashwin, please ask.
is there like any place like no one will come in this corona situation and like it's like free for everyone to travel, but no one travels? Like no one knows.
You
Is there
want
any place like that?
he wants to go to a place where no one travels, and so I sense a like you also talked about going to Australia to an island where there's nobody. It also looks like he wants to be away from people.
No. That island was like you should not take any phone, gadgets, nothing, internet, nothing. You should not come out of the island for 1 month. It's like you can be alone.
Alone and free. Okay.
Yeah, from this internet and things.
Okay. Yes, Ashik. Yeah, please take that question. Yeah.
So so safe like a place that is safe during COVID times, I don't know yet. If there was one, I would have gone there already. But so it is more of a responsibility to the people of the place that I would be traveling to, that I'm not traveling at the moment, because one doesn't know, one can be the carrier of the virus. So also like to share an experience along with it. So and so the start of February, a few friends had visited me, and they wanted to learn weaving. So I suggest so the place that I mentioned when I was sharing about Nila Yatra, the community was into weaving. So I suggested them that place and connected them to them, and they went there. But that was when the COVID was first officially announced that okay, and wasn't sure that the first COVID case was reported on January 30th. And so this was early February that they visited this place, and the next day the point of contact that I had, so he's a very elderly person who is also the leader of the community. He called me up saying we are hearing about the COVID situation, and the people are worried. So it would be nice if these two people who have come, if they can go back to wherever they are. And then but this request also came from a space of worry and fear, because 7 generations ago it was due to a pandemic that they had to migrate from their native land and come to this place looking for safe havens. So that made like much sense to me. So I shared this with the friends, and so the next day we figured out where they could go to from there, and so on. Yeah, so I guess like there is also a responsibility that is attached to traveling, like in the current situation. Yes, so I'm also looking forward to a time when things turn a little more better, and we can all start moving. Yeah.
I think that is a very, very important answer, Asik. It's just because one wants to travel, I think one has to be mindful of the situation, and whether you are posing a risk to somebody, or whether you are being you are giving a sense of discomfort to someone else. I think that is also an important aspect of travel, being mindful of others' emotions as well and the situations. Thank you for that question, Ashwin, and also thank you for the answer, Ashik. So we'd like to take some more questions. He is available for some more time, 5 more minutes. We'll wind up by 8:15, so we have 6 more minutes. Please, if you have questions, please do ask.
Anna, I would like to ask that when you travel to other places like other states or other countries, like where English is not available or not conversed that much, how do you manage with the people around you, and how do you manage to converse with them?
What is not available? Places where what is not available? I didn't understand.
English.
English conversations where
Oh,
do you manage with language in different places?
yeah. Yes. So I haven't traveled outside India yet. My travel has largely been in India, and yeah. So I speak Malayalam, English, a little bit of Tamil, Hindi. I understand Marathi, and I also can read and write Gujarati. So this is something that I learned like in the last few years, and knowing different languages that really helps. So yeah, but even beyond all of this, the language of love is what that matters. Like one can really easily convey what one actually means even without the support of any language, is what I believe, and from my experience also. Yeah.
It's interesting, Ashik. But did you learn languages after you became like interested in travel, or was it in your school days that you had learned the language, but it eventually turned out to be helpful when you traveled? Which was the cause and which was the effect?
As a school going, like from during my school, I've learned only Malayalam and English. Malayalam, obviously, because it's my mother tongue. Tamil from watching Tamil movies, mostly Kamal Hassan movies, and then like I worked for 2 years in Thane, Maharashtra. I was working with Thane Municipal Corporation schools, and I had the opportunity to work with 5 schools of 5 different mediums: Hindi, English, Marathi, Urdu, and Gujarati. So that was when I first learned. So the f- so the first year of working with these schools, I was working with only Hindi and English medium schools. So that was when I first learned Hindi, and I learned the language through my by interacting with the children of my schools only. And later I was assigned with Marathi, Gujarati, and Urdu medium schools. So that was when I learned a bit of Marathi, but then like my Marathi vocabulary is limited to school processes. And Gujarati, I know to read and write, but I can't speak. But yeah.
That's quite a lot of languages, you know. Yeah, so I think, so like you said, language of love is what I mean. That would be sufficient to travel to begin traveling at least, and then probably on your journey you can pick up more languages. But I think what you're trying to say, language, not knowing languages should not be a hurdle to travel.
It is not a hurdle. That is from my experience, because the first time I went to Thane, and I was not just traveling. I was working with Hindi medium schools. I was working with children. I was working with teachers and principals and parents. But then I didn't know the language at all at that time when I first started working with them. But it was them who helped me learn the language. It was mostly the children who helped me learn the language, because they would ask a lot of questions, and I was put in a situation where I had to answer them. I had to talk to them. So yeah. So uh, yeah, but then like in our conversations at that time, like not knowing the language, it didn't matter to them at all. Most importantly, it didn't matter to them as far as they enjoyed being around and so on. Yeah, so it was a great learning experience for the both of us. Yeah.
Thank you, Ashik. That was so. I think we've reached 8:15, almost 2 minutes more. Thank you so much, Ashik. Would you like to have a final piece of words to the listeners? Yes, and then we'll wind up. Yeah.
Sure, yes, sure, yes. Like I thank the people at Mango Education for having me here, for creating the space for these interactions. Um, uh, Chitra, she is not here. Like she was the one who invited me to the space. But like, yeah, super thankful about that. And thanks to everyone present here for listening so far and asking questions and for all these lovely interactions. And yes, and like if you wish to design your own learning journey, it could be your own solo learning journey or something with your friends or something that is with your family. Please do get in touch. I'll share. Obili has my contact details. So yeah, please do get in touch. Like, would love to help you, support you in that journey. Yes.
Sure. I myself will be reaching out to you on that as well. Yes.
Yes. Sure, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking us through a journey of your experiences and also tempting us to have similar experiences as well. So thank you so much. Listeners, you can unmute yourself and let us all thank him. You can unmute yourself and thank him for the wonderful session and the valuable time he spent with us.
I should be thanking all of you because like for being present and listening and asking all these wonderful questions. Thank you so much, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ashik. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Na.